our education starts at K through 12. And we're not doing a good enough job at the K through 12 level making sure that all our kids are proficient in math, in science, in reading and writing. And what we've done is we've set up something called the Race to the Top, where although a lot of federal money still flows to schools just based on a formula and based on need, we've taken a certain amount of money and we've said, you know what, you've got to compete for this money. And you've got to show us that you've got a plan to improve the education system, to fix low-performing schools, to improve how you train teachers, because teachers are the single most important ingredient in the education system, to collect data to show that you're improving how these kids are learning. And what's happened is that states all across the country have actually responded really well. And we've seen the majority of states change their laws to start doing this bottom-up grassroots reform of the K through 12 system. That's critical. That's number one. Second thing that we've got to solve is that college became unaffordable for a lot of people. And Joe and Rhonda, we were just talking, we're about the same age, and we got married, I think, the same year. Our kids are about the same age, so we've kind of gone through the same stuff. And Michelle and I don't know about you guys, we didn't talk about this, but Michelle and I, we had a lot of debt when we finished school. It was really expensive. And neither of us came from wealthy families, so we just had to take out a bunch of student loans. It took us about 10 years to pay off our student loans. It was actually higher than our mortgage for most of the time. And I don't want that burden to be placed on kids right now, because a lot of them, as a consequence, maybe they decide not to go to college, or if they do, they end up getting off to a really tough start because their pay just is not going to support the amount of debt that they've got. So here's what we did. Working with Sherrod, working with Mary Jo, Democrats in Congress. This didn't get a lot of attention, but we actually completely transformed how the government student loan program works. Originally, what was happening was all those loans were going through banks and financial intermediaries, and even though the loans were guaranteed by the government, so the banks weren't taking any risks, they were skimming off billions of dollars in profits. And we said, well, that doesn't make any sense. If we're guaranteeing it, why don't we just give the loans directly to the students, and we'll take all that extra billions of dollars that were going to the banks as profits, and we'll give more loans. And as a consequence, what we've been able to do is to provide millions more students additional loans and make college more affordable over time. That's the second thing. Third thing we've got to do is we've got to focus on community colleges, which are a wonderful asset. Not everybody's going to go to a four-year college. And even if you go to a four-year college, you may need to go back and retrain 2 years or for a year or two, even while you're working, to keep pace with new technologies and new developments in your industry. So what we've really tried to do is to partner with community colleges, figure out how we can strengthen them, put more resources into them, and link them up to businesses who are actually hiring so that they're training people for the jobs that exist as opposed to the jobs that don't. One of the problems we've had for a lot of young people is they go to college training for a job thinking that their jobs or thinking there's a job out there, and actually the economy has moved on. And what we need to do is tailor people's education so that they are linked up with businesses who say, we need this many engineers, or we need this kind of technical training, or and we'll help design what that training is, so that when that person goes to college and they're taking out some of those loans to go to college, they know at the end of the road there's actually going to be a job available to them. Last thing, math, science, we've really got to emphasize those. That's an area where we've really fallen far behind, and our technological competitiveness is going to depend on how well we do in math and science. All right? Okay. Who we got? Yes, sir.
Mr. President, my name is Joe Richard. I am a proud firefighter for the great city of Columbus here in Ohio. Thank you much.
Joe, did you used to play for Ohio State, man?
I must correct you. I was actually a part of the national championship team for Eastern Kentucky University.
Oh, okay. All right. That's
For the
nice.
national champion, no less.
Well, there you go. Okay. But you look like we could put you on the line right now.
That's what they all say.
Anyway.
But, Mr. President, I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things as it pertains to the safety and security of our firefighters. I want to share with you some good news as it pertains to the stimulus and the SAFER Act, for which you championed and signed off on. Locally and from the state standpoint, we had some firefighter jobs that were in jeopardy, up in the hundreds. The stimulus package, I know the state was strapped with its commitment and what it had to do with those monies. Some of those areas we weren't able to be supported in. But because of your administration signing off on the SAFER Act, which is staffing, adequate fire, and emergency response, you provided over $300 million last year and upped that to over $400 million this year that had allowed for the jobs in Ohio to come back, the firefighters rather on the jobs to come back and get their jobs back. In addition to that, the Fire Act has provided safer equipment for us. We don't want to sound cliché, but I'm just your average Joe. But what we do as firefighters, we want to make a significant difference to our citizens here in our community, as well as our lives. That SAFER Act and that Fire Act has provided us significant equipment, funding for significant equipment, right. Fire face pieces, self-contained breathing apparatus, things of those natures. So we come to say how proud we are to be able to afford that opportunity to secure our firefighters. The international president has sent a appreciative thank you, and we would hope that you would find, I know in your busy schedule, somewhere around this country, Cincinnati, Akron, Elyria, Niles, have brought back firefighters because of the SAFER Act. And if anywhere along your schedule you have the opportunity as a symbolic gesture of support to stop into those stations, thank those firefighters, we would greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and as I said, you guys put your lives on the line each and every day. We wanted to make sure that public safety was not being threatened as a consequence of the recession. We've done that. We've helped to support not just firefighters but also police officers, teachers, other vital services. We're going to continue to support you, and again, we're very grateful for everything you do. And if this is your lovely wife here, we're grateful to her too, because she's got to put up with you, running off into fires and putting yourself in danger. And I'm sure that makes her a little bit stressed once in a while, but I'm sure she's very proud of you. Okay. Anybody else? Yes. Go ahead. Here, we got a microphone over.
Hi, Mr. President. My name is Pam Cohen, and I was actually recently laid off of a position working at our local community college, helping dislocated workers get back and get retrained. But the position was funded on workforce investment dollars, and the funding ended. As I look for a new position in social services, one of my concerns is I'm having trouble finding a position that pays enough so that I can pay my bills and also send my daughter to quality child care. So I was wondering if there's anything that's been done to reduce child care costs in Washington.
Well, we have a child care credit in place. We'd like to make it stronger. This is one of those back and forths we've been having with the Republicans because we actually think it is a good idea. And they don't. But I think that giving families support who have to work each and every day is absolutely critical. Now, there's some companies that are starting to get smart about providing child care on site for their employees, which makes a huge difference. It's a huge relief. But those are usually bigger companies. And some of the smaller companies or small businesses don't have that capacity. The bottom line is we just got to make sure that we're providing you more support, primarily through a tax credit mechanism. This is something that we have incorporated in the past in our budget. We haven't gotten everything that we'd like done on it. It will be something that we continue to try to work on a bipartisan basis to get the cost of child care down. There's another component of this, though, and that's also boosting the quality of child care. Kids learn more from the age of 0 to 3 than they do probably for the rest of their lives. And this goes to the earlier question about education. We want to get them off to a good start, knowing their colors and their numbers and their letters, and just knowing how to sit still. And a high quality, child care environment can help on that front. But that means that child care workers, for example, have to be paid a decent wage and get decent training. And we've been working, we set up actually a task force that is trying to lift up best practices. Who's really doing a great job in creating high quality health care or child care at an affordable rate, and then trying to teach other states and other cities and other communities how to replicate some of that great progress that's been made. There are some terrific programs out there, but they're still too far and few between. Okay? All right, I've got time for 2 more questions. Yes, sir, right here.
My name's Mike O'Reilly, and I work for a company who just is benefiting from some stimulus money here in Columbus. And it's keeping me and my crews afloat for a while, but what we really need is a stronger housing market here in Columbus. We need to be building new roads and making houses affordable for people. They need to get out there buying. They need to be able to get the loans, and what's up with that?
Well, remember I told you that it's going to take some time for this economy to come back? One of the reasons it's going to take time for this economy to come back is the housing market is still a big drag on the economy as a whole. And the reason the housing market is still a big drag on the economy as a whole is we built a lot of homes over the previous 5, 7, 10 years. Every year, about 1.4 million families are formed that are ready to buy a new house or need some place to live. And what happened over the previous 4, 5, 7 years during this housing bubble was we were building 2 million homes a year when only 1.4 were being absorbed. And then the bubble burst, and now we're only building 400,000. And all that inventory that's, happened during the housing bubble, it's still out there. So, some states are worse than others. You go to places like Nevada or Arizona or Florida, California, their inventory of unsold homes was so high that it is just going to take a whole bunch of years to absorb all that housing stock. Now, what we can do is to help people who are currently in their homes stay in their homes. We can strengthen the economy overall so that, that new family that just formed, they feel confident enough to say, you know what, it's time, honey, for us to go out and take the plunge and start looking. And right now they're kind of holding back the way a lot of people are still holding back because there's uncertainty in the market. And we've initiated through the Treasury Department a number of programs like that to help support the housing market generally. But I want to be honest with you. It is going to take some time for us to absorb this this inventory that was just too high. And there's no really quick way to do it because we're talking about a $5 trillion market. And we can't plug that big hole in terms of all the housing that needs to be absorbed. We're not going to be able to subsidize all that overcapacity right now. What we can do is just stabilize it and then improve the economy overall. What we're going to do is get back to the point where we're building 1.4 million homes a year instead of 400,000. And that's a huge difference. So the industry is going to come back. Question is, can we just nudge it a little bit more? And the most important thing we can do now is to improve the economy overall so that people start feeling a little more confidence. All right? I've got time for one more. Do you have a question? Here, you can use mine.
Thank you.